Oh, hey, John, how are you? Good to see you. And it's great to see you, listener, viewer. This is In the Lab, presented by Xfinity. I'm Drew, you're John, and you're you. So, John, hey, we've got ourselves a rootin' tootin' playoff game Saturday afternoon, just
That's
the way
right.
we like it.
Just
Texans
the
have
way
done
we
that.
like
I'm not complaining
it.
about it. Hey,
I'm not
we're,
either. I like
you're in
that
the playoff.
spot.
You're in the
Yeah.
playoffs. You've done what you've done. It's time to go. And this is the eighth time the Texans will play wild card weekend in the playoffs, and they're 5-2 in those first seven. It's the fourth time this year they'll wear the all blue combos.
Yep.
They won at Dallas in those. They won here at home another game, and they lost one on the road to the Packers.
Yep.
It's the fourth time they'll wear them in the playoffs. They're also 2-1 in those. They lost to the Chiefs, but they've won against the Bengals the second time they did it, second time in the playoffs. And then I believe 2019 when they beat the Bills. So
That's
yeah,
right.
they can win in these things. Doesn't really matter. You're facing a really, really, really good Chargers team that's really, really beatable. We've heard the stuff about Rex Ryan saying it's a bye. I think part of that's Rex just being Rex and trying
Yeah.
to get a rise, and he's on TV and he's got to
And
have an
he's done
opinion.
it.
He's
He
done it
did it.
before. Yeah,
Yeah. He got a rise.
got to rise. I don't think the Chargers believe this is a bye weekend. I know the Texans don't believe this is a bye weekend. In listening to Jim Harbaugh's press conference, watching his press conference, which that's interesting, as well as Herbert yesterday. They're very respectful of the team, but they're confident as well as they should be. They should be confident going to this. But yeah, I want to talk about Harbaugh and press conferences. Went about 19, 20 minutes. So much of what he communicates, and not says, but communicates, he does with he speaks with just hand gestures and shoulder shrug. And it's interesting to watch. I mean, you can see why he's been a successful head coach, why he is a successful head
Yeah.
coach here in college, and so on and so forth. But mighty test, but nothing insurmountable for the Texans this weekend.
He is an interesting guy to say the
Yeah.
least. I'll never forget. I'll tell the story here.
I like him. He's a weirdo, and I like weirdos. I worked alongside Mike Leach for a lot. You're a weirdo. I love
Yeah.
you.
So
So yeah, I'm in for this.
so we had Bear Bryant Awards back in 2009, and it was his first year at Stanford where they started kind of turning the corner. Andrew Luck was his quarterback, and so we had invited him. He's in a finalist for the event. I really kind of pushed for him because I felt like he deserved to be there. So at that time, Sean Pendergast and I would get every single coach at some point before the program for our radio show. So we had gotten 3 or 4 of them that day, and then coach is scheduled, I think, at like 3 or 3:30, and he walks over and he's kind of SID kind of sits him down and we're like, "Hey, coach, how you doing? Oh, nice to kind of trying to figure out who we are." And we start kind of chatting with him and a little bit, and he's kind of into it, kind of not. Okay, we got 45 seconds or so. Well, he doesn't have his headphones on. We do, so we know we've got like 45 seconds before we're going back on the air. He reaches into his pocket and he takes out, I think it's Copenhagen. Pats it. Like I've seen that. I've known so many
Sure.
people over the years. My dad, I know.
You're also from Texas.
Yeah, right. So I knew what was going on. But I'm like, oh boy. And Sean can't see him. Sean's kind of focused on how he's going to start the segment. I can see him. I'm like, oh my God. He's about to put in this huge dip and then talking to a microphone.
And he'll probably do it flawlessly.
And I'm telling you, he puts it in, his fingers come out of his mouth, and Sean is saying, "Coach, welcome to the show." He spits into a Coke bottle and then picks up the microphone and is like, "Hey guys, how you doing?"
He's done that before, John.
And I died laughing. I was dying laughing.
What he talked about yesterday in the press conference, it was interesting what he was saying, but he talked about how somebody was asking him, why do you go to the end zone to look at reps when you're observing your quarterback play? And he goes, well, I used to do it when I was a player to try and see things. And he made the point a few times. I've probably watched about 100,000 reps, 100,000 quarterback reps,
right,
between playing in high school, being under his dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he went to a zillion practices
Sure.
that his dad coached, being an assistant, being a head coach, so on and so forth. 100,000 reps. He loves his quarterback, Herbert. Had really cool things. Like CJ Stroud, he was saying, I wish we'd have, I saw him in person. And that's how it came up.
Yeah.
That made a trip out to LA, and he like the way he's telling, he's like to the rental car. Yeah, it's just funny to see.
He's very different. He's unique.
He was talking about how he went on the field and he was up in the stands watching CJ Stroud play a game, but then he went out into the end zone and he was really impressed. And he talks about how he can beat you throwing the ball around a guy, throwing the ball over a guy, different arm slots. Yeah. He's that good a quarterback. It's interesting to see a coach speak, because a lot of times you watch a coach like, I don't like that guy. I can just like Prescott. I'm not a fan of him. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of this guy. Well, I'm a bigger fan of the guy that's coaching the Texans.
Well, I mean, the last time that CJ Stroud and Jim Harbaugh were on a field together, Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines were beating them in the snow in Ann Arbor. So, so there's been that. Well, I guess it happened in 22 as well. It happened in Columbus both times. So, fortunately, CJ's 0-2. Thing is, Nico Collins played for Jim Harbaugh. He was 0-4, I think.
Right.
Maybe 0-3 against Ohio State. So, neither Nico nor CJ beat the other side, but Harbaugh stayed around long enough. My hope is that Jim Harbaugh finishes his 2024 season in the same exact location that he finished his 2023 season, and that's right here at Energy Stadium. And they won the national championship with Michigan, ends up taking the Chargers job. He's done a whale of a job with his Chargers team. And I think what's kind of fascinating about this team, Drew, is that I feel like, think about a scale 1 to 10. I feel like the Chargers are constant 8. Like, it's an 8 across the board. They'll beat a 7, they'll beat a 6. If you're a 10 but you play like a 4, they'll beat you. If you're a 4 but you play like a 9, you can beat them.
Yeah.
Like the Texans, I don't know that we have played at a consistent 8 all year. Right. I think there are times we were 8.5, 9. There are times we were probably 9. The first half of the Lions game, we were 9.5. We were, but we've got that club in our bag. They're a consistent 8. Offensive line is good, not great. Herbert is fantastic. Let's not get that twisted. The running game is good, not great. Bosa and Mack, at this point of their careers, good, really good. I don't know if they were like they used to be. Inside, the interior of the defense, it's good, not great. Linebacker, Henley, really good. Well, I'd say he's better than any of our guys. Secondary, it's good, but not great. It's a constant 7.5, 8 across the board, and that you're gonna get that. Can you bring your 9.5 game to go beat them? And that to me is the biggest key. Can you ramp it up to that? Now, you might have moments of the game where you're not as consistent. I think that's what's kind of plagued the Texans at some point. But you've got to find those moments to be better than an 8 long enough to end up winning this football game. I mean, you're the underdog. You're the bye week, as Rex Ryan wanted to say. So you got to ratchet it up. Fans got to be in it from play one all the way through. They got to be in this game. They've got to be emotionally attached to it. It might be the last football game in 2024 there. Now, there's a minute chance that you could host an AFC championship game featuring the Broncos or the Steelers, but I don't know if that'll happen. You're more likely going to have to go on the road, and you're going to have to go on the road after winning this game against the Chargers. But don't want to look ahead. Yeah, play good football. Just win this game. Just play good football. Just play good Texans football, and that will be enough to beat this football team.
John, let's raise a glass. Let's raise a Modelo to the playoffs. You're here. I mean, you and I, we were not in the playoffs. But technically, we've never been in the playoffs. I don't know this. But 20, 21, 22, those were dark, dark times, and it looked like the playoffs might never come back. And it's going to be a lot. Well, they came back in 23, and it was glorious last year. They're back now. It's 2024 in just a few days. So I'm amped. So with that in mind, welcome in, Randy Macho Man Savage.
The cream of the crop.
Thank you, Macho Man. And let's get cream of the crop award winners. I'm going to go with a very boring choice because it's not exotic. I'm not getting crazy with it. But give me Danielle Hunter, defensive end for the Houston Texans. He have 12 sacks. He have so many pressures on the quarterback this season at the tippy top of the NFL in that regard. But give me Danielle Hunter to mess with Justin Herbert, to mess with the offensive line of the Los Angeles Chargers. He's one of the best in the NFL, Danielle Hunter. I'm not getting exotic here, but let's get freaky on the Chargers offensive line, and let's make life really miserable because over on the other side, Will Anderson is back. So is Derek Barnett. I bet you we see Danico Autry as well. He didn't practice on Tuesday, but I bet he winds up suiting up for this game. Another guy who did practice, Foley Fatukasi. I love seeing him back. Mario Edwards looked good last week. So this Texans defensive front, spearheaded, I think, by Danielle Hunter. That's going to be my cream of the crop award winner. If the Texans are playing a game in the divisional round of the playoffs, give me Danielle Hunter.
Yeah, and Danielle will line up on the left side a lot of the time, and that's going against the team's right tackle. So that means rookie Joe Alt. Now, if you're the Chargers and Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, we found the other day was actually a college teammate of Nick Caserio. Greg Roman is going to give one of his tackles help.
Sure.
His tackles are very good. Rashawn Slater has been around. He's seen some things. Clemens High School grad, Northwestern, smart dude. Like, he can hold his own. So my guess is they're going to give help to Alt on Danielle. Now, when teams have done that this year, as we get geeky in the lab,
we do that here.
There are, and we talked to D'Amico about this, there are things that the Texans have built into their pass rush for chips, for double teams, that if they get that, they kind of read it on the run and make some adjustments as they're rushing the quarterback. So Danielle on Joe Alt, I like that matchup. If they're going to choose to go one-on-one, that's going to be a tough day for Joe Alt.
And Joe Alt's really good.
Man. Oh, he's really good.
Really, really
and
good.
He's going to be an exceptional player.
Yeah.
But I liked our guy from Notre Dame, and I like Blake Fisher a lot. The other side is going to be, like I said, Rashawn Slater and Will Anderson for the most part. Now, it's probably going to be Derek Barnett too. All these edge guys are going to have to get it. But where they really, I think, have got to do some things are on the inside. Getting potentially and hopefully Foley Fatukasi back is going to be huge. Tommy Togiai has been found $20 in your pocket for, the last 2 months. I mean, he's been fantastic. Fantastic. My cream of the crop, since you went defense, I'll go offense. Cool. And I'm going to say Dalton Schultz.
Hey, I like that. I talked with him in the pregame radio interview.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I mean, Dalton is he didn't play much the other day, but they had to play him because the Texans were using some 12 and 13 personnel, which means one running back, and then the second number is how many tight ends. So when you're using 12 and 13, you're using 2 and 3 tight ends. So they would use him. They threw it to him on the first drive. He made a heck of a catch. And that, to me, is the biggest thing. Dalton catches every ball thrown at him on Saturday. He's going to end up being the cream of the crop winner, no doubt.
Well, hey,
they're going to move this offense too.
Remember, he only had one catch last year in the wild card round.
Yeah, it was a big one.
It was a big one.
Yeah,
touchdown.
I think it's going to be more often. Now, one of the reasons I think that is the hots have got to be ready and available like they were against Tennessee. Dougherty did a good job reading the hot, catching the ball from Davis Mills. There was one of the CJ hit on a hot. And I think the way Derwin James plays this game ends up being key. And he's going to be blitzing. He's going to be moving around. He loves to play at the line of scrimmage. He almost plays like another outside linebacker. So when he is blitzing and moving, sometimes you can't account for him. The guy that has to account for him is CJ. And that means that CJ and his tight ends and wide receivers have got to be, tight ends and running backs basically, have got to be ready to roll with their hots and their sight adjusts so that CJ takes, there's the blitz. Where's my hot? My hot is Dalton Schultz. Bang. 5 catches, 60 yards, a tutty. I'll take it.
That works.
That will go a long way in getting a win against the Chargers.
Hey, you just brought up how in the lab we get geeky on here. So let's kind of get geeky, but let's do so in remembrance of a great. Rest in peace, Chick Harris. He was the first running backs coach in this franchise's history. And you might think, okay, well, if that's the case, if you're new to the Texans, if that's the case, okay, we coached in 02 and 03 and 04 probably or something, maybe 05.
Mm-hmm.
He did. On into 2013.
Right.
So he lasted through Dom Capers and Gary Kubiak.
Right.
All of those two regimes. That's rare. Okay. Then he was replaced with the Bill O'Brien regime comes in by a guy, another good one, Charles London, did a nice job.
Mm-hmm.
Charles was here a few years. And then Danny Barrett came in under Bill O'Brien. He lasted all of the rest of Bill O'Brien. Culley, Lovie Smith, and he's been here throughout D'Amico Ryans. So that's rare. You've only had 3 men coach running backs in franchise history. You've had more head coaches than that.
You've had more head coaches in the last 3 years.
Exactly. I mean, that's bananas.
Don't go there.
I don't know if you can maybe you can say that about other franchises when they started, but
Mhm.
that's a weird statistical anomaly. And think about some of the stuff that those guys saw. So that means Chick coached a few 1,000-yard rushers in Dominic Davis Williams,
Right.
Steve Slayton,
Yeah,
Arian Foster.
that's right.
Okay. Then Charles comes in, gets 1,000 yards out of Arian Foster.
Right.
Can't remember if he overlapped with 1,000-yard Lamar Miller
He did.
season.
Yes,
yeah,
he did.
So you got that. Danny comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lamar hit 1,000 under him again,
Yep.
maybe. Carlos Hyde.
Wapo.
Yeah, El Wapo. Damian Pierce almost got 1,000. He had a 900.
Got close.
I'll give it to him, even though he didn't get it.
Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon got 1,000. So Danny's seen some things. I mean, it's wild. And Danny can point out, I bet you, hey, I've got the 2 longest runs. I got the Lamar Miller one.
Mm-hmm.
This one's for you, Bob, as called
Yep.
beautifully by Mark Vandermeer, voice of the Houston Texans. And then the one the other day from Damian. So they've seen some stuff. How about that, John? Three running backs coaches in franchise history.
You know, in an occupation where every single year can end up being a different coaching staff.
The great Spike Dykes once said, coaches are like gypsies, because they move around so much.
I mean, it is, and it's a rare instance. I think about Danny Barrett surviving Bill O'Brien, Romeo Crennel. Surviving is not the right way.
I know what you mean.
Because Danny is such a good coach and such a good leader, and I know these running backs. Like, I watch when they're doing special teams, and I was watching, this was on Tuesday, and they were doing special teams, and Joe's not part of special teams, but Danny doesn't want those running backs, or doesn't want Joe in particular, to just kind of sit there. So he set up 5 bags, and I could see, like, Danny would look at his play sheet, he'd read the play, and then he would have Joe go through his steps on that particular play. And he wasn't running, but he was just like, walk through your steps. Okay, good. Let's go to the next play. And it was, they just kind of went through the entire script they were going to run that day, the script that they're going to run against the Chargers. And I love that, because I've been to a lot of practices that aren't, I've been to practices that the Texans are included, but obviously other teams too. You get to special teams and you look over and their guys are just Jack John on the sideline. And then you look over and you see Danny Barrett with those running backs, and he's throwing the ball to them. They're throwing the ball to each other. They're talking through the play sheet. They're walking through the plays. I love Danny Barrett. There's a reason that he is stuck around. There's a reason Chick stuck around through multiple coaches. Charles London was fantastic, but he's gone on to take on some bigger roles, coaching quarterbacks in different places. He was a Seahawks quarterback coach this past year. So Charles London, great coach. I mean, all 3 of them, tremendous coaches. Yeah. And the fact that you've only had 3 at that position, I think, is wild. Yeah, absolutely wild.
And I wanted to bring it up because obviously he just passed lung cancer. So very sorry to see him go. Very sad. And I think it's cool, though, that one of his former proteges in Arian Foster is going to be a big part of what's going on Saturday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's going to be repping H-Town, basically the guy that comes out of the tunnel and they focus on and do good things. And he hasn't been around as much. You've seen him at some things. We saw him at the Andre Johnson ring game where they gave him his Pro Football Hall of Fame ring. That was cool. It was really fun seeing him before the game there. He was in Mexico City a long time ago when the Texans were playing against the Raiders. He was on the sidelines, and he's been here at some games here and there, but hasn't been honored. But it's cool to see him get that honor because he's the greatest running back in franchise history, one of the greatest players in team history. Those 4 seasons that he was healthy as a Houston Texan, 10, 11, 12, and 14.
Yep.
Dynamite. I mean, he was dynamite. We were spoiled to see him on the field and do what he did, and it's good to have him back in the building.
Yep, very good. It's going to be cool to see him. And, hopefully these running backs, Joe Mixon and Damian Pierce, can channel their inner Arian Foster against the Chargers.
He was awesome, number 23 in the playoffs.
Yes, he was.
Played 4 playoff games.
He was.
Only one of those did he fail to crack 100 yards. He had 90 in the one that he didn't. So, he was awesome. It's awesome to have him back. Can't wait to see number 23 back here at NRG Stadium. It's good to be with you, John. Great to do in the lab. But it's best, John, to do it with you, the gentle viewer, gentle listener. This is In the Lab, presented by Xfinity, and we'll see you. Let's do it again next week, John.
Yes.
You cool with that?
Next week. Yes, absolutely.